I want to bring to the screen right now Nomiki Konst from Solidarity Wednesdays. Every single week at this time, we get a chance to sit down and talk about what's happening in the world, not just internationally, but domestically. Nomiki, thank you so much for hanging out and waiting for me. I had technical difficulties on my own personal end this morning. That's why we're late. But good morning to you.
Good morning. And I do need that reminder of the day of the week because this is a chaotic world that we live in. So if you want to come in several times a day and tell me what day of the week it is, that would be great. Because
I actually could use that myself. You mentioned Starbucks. I want to go right to the Starbucks union efforts. The CEO, Schultz, is back. You don't hear a lot from him, but he speaks out when it's something important to him. And we have a clip. This is what he's saying in a town hall meeting on Monday. Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz just told workers that Starbucks is, quote, being assaulted in many ways by the threat of unionization. Let's take a listen in to the Starbucks CEO.
Now, here's where it gets a little sensitive because I've been coached a little bit, but I do want to talk about something pretty serious. We can't ignore what is happening in the country as it relates to companies throughout the country being assaulted in many ways by the threat of unionization.
I'm not even going to set it up. Nomiki.
Oh, poor companies, poor CEOs. They're just going through such torture right now.
Such a hard time.
The economy's a mess. And oh my God, like the gas prices are so high that maybe you're going to have to pay a little bit more for their private jet to get to Barbados. You know, climate change is really, are you kidding me? Come on now. Like this is.
He's really looking for sympathy. Right? I know corporations are people, according to Mitt Romney and Citizens United, but are we really supposed to feel empathy for corporations that make billions of dollars and leave workers out to dry? And then the second thing, Nomiki, is the threat of unionization. That phrase right there should tell you everything you need to know about how CEOs, executives, and corporations view labor. They view 100%. Your organizing as a threat.
I posted something the other day on Instagram and social media. I ran for office a few years ago, and we had it was a special election, and in New York, when you have a special election, a citywide special election, you have to come up with your own party name. It's a very weird system, and I ran on 3 issues. Number 1, raising the minimum wage to $30 an hour in New York. Number 2, rent control, taking on major developers in New York who are getting massive subsidies for tax subsidies. And tax breaks to sell property, and then they're selling it off to oligarchs, and free transportation. Okay, so those 3 things I thought were very instrumental into shifting the way New Yorkers would live. So I saw something. People said $30 an hour. Are you crazy? All these small businesses are going to go out of business. And I said, well, we put in protections for small businesses in our plan, but I can't believe the people who are in my comments being like, you're going to ruin businesses in America. What are you going to do? They're going to crash if you raise the wages. And I said, hang on a second. Did you see the second part here about taxing the real estate developers and about rent control? Because the reason why my coffee, I have a coffee shop in my building in Astoria. I don't even live in Manhattan. My coffee that I'm drinking this morning, guess how much this iced coffee was?
I don't want to ask. $7 at least.
Good job. $7.60. $7.60 for an iced coffee. And so people say, it's because of the wages. No. It is because of the rent. So, this is by design. They want to blame the workers. They've permeated people's brains into thinking that when you pay fair wages, something that has not been, when the last time they raised wages was in this country. I mean, if you're never going to raise wages, we're not going to be able to afford to pay the $7.50 coffee. It's because of the rent. Who are we kidding? And the fact that they can still, he talks about unions like it's this new concept that showed up, like aliens showed up last night. And it's like people in America, even though they've been under attack, they know what unions are.
That's right.
It's us.
That's right. Right. I think he's been living in such a fantasy world that the CEOs of America and the oligarchs of the world get to live in, that he forgets that there are normal people who do not like extremely wealthy corporations that put their workers at risk. There are so many people who work in these organizations, and the elite are so disconnected that he actually thought that what he said was going to be okay. Right. But it's very clear, if ever there was a time to unionize and this was at a partners, they like to call baristas their partners. Ask them how much of the profit you're getting every quarter if you're really a partner. But I digress. This was at a partners meeting, which should tell every single barista that has ever worked or will work for Starbucks that they need to unionize immediately. So we're going to keep our eye on story as it develops and with all the unionizing efforts. I want to go to two more stories, Nomiki, while I still have you. Oklahoma has passed a total ban on abortions. Oklahoma passes a total ban law limiting options for Texans. Here's a clip from KHOU 11 breaking it down for us.
And more breaking news that could have a big impact on Texas women. The state legislature in Oklahoma passing a law today that makes performing an abortion in that state a felony. It would be punishable by up to 10 years in prison. The Oklahoma governor is expected to sign the bill into law, and it would go into effect this summer.
Once in place, the law would have major regional impacts. More Texans have gone to Oklahoma to get abortions since the new Texas law went into effect last September. The law here bans abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Planned Parenthood's abortion clinic in Oklahoma says it was seeing an 800% increase in the number of women from Texas.
You know, Nomiki, I want you to do what you do here, but I feel like this is obviously setting this up to be sent to the Supreme Court. There's so many of these instances of laws that are clearly on the face of it unconstitutional based on Roe versus Wade. So they're trying to find some way to overturn that precedent. But I want you to take it. What are your thoughts about this?
No, that was my immediate thought was they're just ready to take them all the way up so that they can just snip away at a woman's right to choose, a woman's autonomy. I mean, it's telling that they said in that local news report, and let's not forget most local news in this country has a right-wing spin. So the fact that they were willing to say, this is in reaction to so many more visits because of Texas just says a lot right there. I mean, I don't want to just step away from the horror of this bill, but I do kind of want to remind folks that the Democratic Party, if we actually existed in many parts of this country, if the Democratic Party actually invested in the party the way that we did maybe 10, 15 years ago, and before when we actually held the House in the 80s, like people say this country is so conservative. Well, we held the House for about 30 years until we stopped investing in parties. So, if we actually put all that money that you're giving, donors are giving to the DNC, if we actually put them into parties, maybe we could win some of these legislatures back so we didn't have these bills. I mean, I'm going to leave it there because people say what's happening to this country is becoming more conservative. No, it's not. We just decided to not show up and play ball. And when you don't show up and play ball, this is what they do. This is what they do.
Yeah, this is I like the show Handmaid's Tale, but I also don't like it because it felt, by season 4, it felt or 3 rather, right. It felt so contrived to me. But now I'm like, if that show wasn't the most prescient show of this century, I mean, because it really feels like the Republican Party, it has no qualms. There's no hesitation, no reservation at all about overturning anything and everything they can to usher in that kind of society. What do you think? I know we got to get out of here, but
no, you're right. I mean, they want to eliminate. You're right. There's no other way of saying it. I've been thinking a lot about this lately. Steve Bannon, and we talk about this all the time. Steve Bannon spends a lot of time on the mythology and of manhood and how to permeate the mindset of voters so that they vote for a conservative agenda. How to get certain folks to continue for generations to vote conservatively. And part of that is preventing certain people to be in office, because the second you start to, those people make decisions, they're more comfortable. The next generation is not, it's not foreign for them to think about laws from the perspective of a Ketanji Brown Jackson or a Hillary Clinton even, you know? So I think we have to start thinking that way too. It's not just about one bill here, one bill there, one bill there. They're thinking like, how do we make it so that men don't see women in power? And what do they get with that?